Tiffany here with Belle and Flareon once again to bring you another book review. Knocked another book out of the park. You do have to suffer me being a blonde. One more video, guys. This is the last video until 2020 when the next book comes out. But until then, you get a 2-year break. So be thankful, and I'm going to be thankful because I don't like myself as a blonde, but I also get to dress up as someone awesome. So it balances itself out. This book, I'm super excited I finally get to do a review on it for a couple of reasons. One, I get to carry a dragon, and I will use any excuse possible to carry a dragon around. I still need to name it. Maybe you guys can name it for me. What should I name my dragon? I mean, I know it's Drogon in the books, but I think I should make mine special. Give me some tips on what to call my beautiful dragon. Second is that me finishing this book marks me being caught up with the series. Guys, that's insane. I didn't even think I was going to catch up. But I finally have. I have powered through 5 books, and now I am caught up with all the rest of this fandom, waiting for the next book to come out in 2020, which is really sad because it needs to come sooner. The show's already delayed, and now I have to wait till 2020 for the next book. I'm going to be deprived, man. The book that I am talking about is A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 5, aka Game of Thrones, A Dance with Dragons. Dracarys! Wah! This book took me a really long time for some reason. I'm not sure why. I would start it, get into it, read a good amount, then stop for a while, then start it again. I was struggling through a reading slump, I guess. I'm not sure. These past couple months have been quite crazy, which is why I haven't been able to keep up with stuff a lot. But finally stuff is settling down, and with the help of my dragon friend, we should be able to conquer more books and movies this month and further on into the year. Yes, it did take me a while to finish this book, which was surprising to me because this actually had a lot more of my favorite characters in it than the last one did. And the last one I flew through, and I think for some reason, even though they were my favorite characters, they're kind of detached from everything that's happening in King's Landing, which everybody knows I love King's Landing and what goes on in there because that's where all the juicy stuff is. It was still a really good book. I loved all the character developments. I really loved how different it was. I've been waiting for these books to go on their own path from the show because I know the show got ahead of it and it's completely different than the books according to a lot of people. And the 4th book was still pretty different, but the show hit all the really big points in that book. This one was different, which I really liked because the show is fantastic, and to have an awesome book that's really different and you're not expecting everything that's going to be happening, I think that's really cool. So just know if you are going to start this series, which you should, it will take you a while, but it will totally be worth your time. The first 3 books are what the show is most faithful to, and then the 4th book diverges somewhat, but it's still decent, and then this one is different and diverges completely from it. I always say either stay completely faithful to the book because that's the best result you're going to get and the fandom will love you insanely and it will keep you popular, or make it so different but good that you can separate the two so it doesn't ruin the book but it doesn't ruin the show or movie. There isn't really much I can tell you because it's the 5th book in a series. And yes, I had the small tiny one because it was cheaper. There isn't really a lot I can tell you without spoiling the rest for you. But I will at least give you statistics. This book has a 4.31 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is mind-blowing Dracarysness. And all of the other books are rated close to that. That should just prompt you to read it because it's that good of a book. I agree with that rating. Out of the order of the books that I like the most, Book 3, A Storm of Swords, Book 4, A Feast for Crows, Book 5, A Dance with Dragons, Book 1, A Game of Thrones, and Book 2, A Clash of Kings. Those are my order from favorite to least favorite, but they're all still super spectacular. This is a high fantasy series, so if you're not a huge fan of fantasy, this book will take you a very long time. But the character development is awesome. I love how many different characters there are, and it's very rich in detail. So if you are a huge fantasy fan and you haven't read this yet, go read it. This is heaven. This is fantasy heaven, people. And I get a dragon! That is really all I can tell you without spoiling you, so I suggest all you non-spoilery people go now. Go read Game of Thrones, go read A Dance with Dragons. It's gonna be amazing and spectacular, I promise you. And if you don't like it, well then you can yell at me in the comments. Read it, and then you can be like me and dress up as your favorite character. and maybe get a dragon. Goodbye, non-spoilery people. Goodbye! I was super excited going into this book because a lot of my favorite characters that were not in the previous book were finally going to be coming into play. For example, Daenerys, who I dressed up as and planned that for a Feast for Crows, and then she wasn't even in the book, so my outfit made partial sense. But now, this outfit makes complete and perfect sense because she's actually a very prominent character in this book. Her and Tyrion. Jon was back as well. My three favorite characters all came back in the same book. It was a little bit jarring, I think, for me because in the past I was used to the books intertwining. So yes, you would go to Jon, you would go to Daenerys, you'd go to Tyrion, though Tyrion was at King's Landing for the most part in the other books. But you'd go to them for a little bit and then you cut back to King's Landing. So even though they were isolated, it was really nice because you would go straight into the chaos of King's Landing, then get a break with Daenerys and Jon, and it'd still be an awesome and amazing story, but you get a little break from all the chaos of King's Landing, and then you go back in. In this book, though, you didn't really have King's Landing until the end, but for most of the book, you are on the whole other side of the world, basically, with Tyrion trying to get to Daenerys, and Daenerys trying to rule Meereen. That's still so frustrating. You just see her kingdom falling apart and you just want to scream at Daenerys to not do this and not do that. I just wish Daenerys could come and have some girl talk with me, you know? We'd figure it out together. So that was a little bit weird being so away from King's Landing. And in Feast for Crows, which is why I probably liked it more, you're only in King's Landing and that whole area. There are some storylines in here that were not even remotely present in the show. I think the one storyline that they really should have added in the show, because I think it's super important, is the whole thing with Griff. He's secretly the lost heir to the Iron Throne. Everybody thought he was killed as a baby, but he ends up being alive, and Jon Connington is helping him get his throne back. I think that's huge, because this whole entire time you're just focused on Daenerys, thinking that she's the heir to the Iron Throne truly, but instead there's this whole other person that has a better support and claim than she does. That is threatening to her kingdom. And I'm just sitting there thinking, why isn't this in the show? Because yes, in the show, we have Jon, I guess, who threatens her now. But I don't know, I just feel like this element, this storyline with Griff is so important. It can falter out and lead to nothing, but it also could be very, very important. One storyline that they didn't add in there, which I agree they didn't need to add in there, was the whole storyline with the Prince of Dorne. The Prince of Dorne is one of the most stupid characters I have ever met in my book. He's a really nice guy. I appreciate him trying, but he's going across the world to marry Daenerys, and I'm sitting there reading this while he's trying to get there, and I'm thinking, dude, you're not gonna get Daenerys. I'm sorry. No, this isn't gonna happen. I felt bad for his character because he was that stupid, and then he does the most stupid thing on the planet and releases the dragons. And it actually made me think for maybe 2 seconds that he'd be able to control them. As soon as he opened where they were locked up, I knew it was over. This dude was gonna die. He was the first character really in a while where I had their perspective, and he died. But I couldn't feel that bad. I felt bad, but he was stupid. Shame on you. Shame on you. The dragon thinks so too. Tyrion's whole storyline was really interesting. It was interesting not having Varys there with him, because in the show, as you know, Varys travels with him, and then eventually Jorah Mormont captures him. His storyline was really, really different in this book, which I liked actually a lot. In fact, Tyrion's actually helping Griff and Jon Connington with their whole plot in a way. He does save him from the grayscale and learns the truth, and does give him good advice and says don't trust anyone, basically, because you're gonna get skewered if you do. And he does end up getting captured by Jorah, but Varys is nowhere involved at all in this book until the very, 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 very end. And then on top of that, he ends up getting this new companion, Penny. I like Penny a lot. I really hope she's not sick to the point where she's gonna die, because I'm gonna be really sad. I did like her whole storyline with Tyrion. It gives a whole new dynamic, because Tyrion hasn't really cared about anybody that much in a while. Don't get me wrong, he's not romantically interested in Penny, but he still cares enough about her that he wants to make sure that she survives and stays strong. He could very easily have abandoned her multiple times, and you can tell he's not doing it really just out of guilt. He's actually genuinely concerned for her safety, even though he won't really completely admit it. Tyrion needs someone that he cares about and that pushes him in a way. A lot has happened to poor Tyrion. And it was weird that Tyrion didn't even meet up with Daenerys. That was so frustrating. They were so close to each other, guys, and they still do not meet. I want Tyrion to shout out and say, "Hey, Daenerys, it's me." But of course he doesn't. And I thought Jorah was going to come with them to the pits like in the show. And then he was going to see Daenerys and reveal himself. And she'd be all, "Oh my gosh, it's Jorah. I've missed him." And all of that. But no, none of that happened. And I'm really sad because now Drogon has taken her away. And the Dothraki have captured her. We're at that point in the book. And she didn't even see Jorah. And Jorah's been right there the whole time. And I have to wait till 2020 for them to be allies. Jon's whole story, too, was different, but it wasn't. It still had the same outcome, which was still really, really sad. But you still had a whole lot of different things happen in there, especially his interaction with Melisandre and Lady Cersei. He trusts Lady Melisandre more. Mance Rayder is somehow still alive. He has a connection with Valmore, who's the wildling princess, I guess. Val's one of my new favorite characters. I hope she becomes even more prominent. She's just so interesting and she's very strong and independent, and I love that about her. Her and Daenerys need to meet. I think they get along great. And Tormund Giantsbane, which was really great seeing him because it took forever for him to appear in the book. I really wanted him and Jon to get along. Their interaction is so fun in the show, and finally it comes in the books, and I was really excited. Of course, it's shortly before Jon dies, but I still got that interaction, so that made me really happy. But I think I really liked the dynamic more between Jon and Melisandre, just because Jon really has to rely on Melisandre more in the books than he does in the show. He doesn't really pay attention to her as much, but in the books he actually really listens to her, and you realize he should have listened to her. The build-up to his death was so good. Melisandre keeps hinting at stuff happening, and since I've seen the show, I just wanted to scream at him, "Jon, you gonna die if you don't listen to Melisandre right now." Do you listen to her? No, of course not. And what happens? Your fellow crows decide to kill you. They're so stupid. All of these characters are stupid. Jon's not stupid, Daenerys isn't stupid, Tyrion isn't stupid, but all the people surrounding them are quite stupid. Princess Shireen is still alive. I love that little girl. I love her more in the show than I do in the books, I gotta say, because you learn more about her in the show than you do in the books. But still, I'm so happy she is not dead. I was waiting for that sacrifice because that was the saddest thing I had seen on a show in a very long time. And luckily, she's still alive. I don't know what's gonna happen to her in the future. I really hope they don't sacrifice her, but I could at least breathe a sigh of relief in this book and know she made it. Isn't that the goal of every character? Just hoping they survived the book. I'm interested to see what happens with Jon Connington's character. I'm not really sure how to feel about him. He wasn't a character that captivated me. He does have grayscale, so he is slowly dying, and I'm wondering if that madness is going to come into play as he tries to conquer more, if he's going to lose his mind more, and then his peeps are going to be like, "What's going on with you, Jon Connington? Why are you acting so strange?" And then they're going to see he's grayscaled, and then they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, he's grayscaled," and then the prince is going to be on his own, and Jon's going to need to die. They took his whole storyline and kind of put it on Jorah, because Jorah in the show is the one who ends up getting grayscale, and you're seeing him slowly deteriorate, and you're hoping against hope he's going to find a cure until Samwell Tarly saves him. That's the only thing, is that I feel like that storyline was really important, but the characters weren't as captivating as the other characters for me. Jon Connington doesn't captivate me as much. His storyline doesn't grab me, and I get kind of annoyed by him, actually, because he's annoying. But the other character that really annoyed me, sadly, was actually Victarion. I'm not sure how to feel about this dude, alright? Victarion and Theon always kind of bugged me a little bit, and I'm not sure why, and I know that a lot of people actually do like Victarion, but I just didn't. Maybe I'm just getting annoyed that all of these people are trying to go to Daenerys to marry her and it's fruitless, but he just kind of annoys me. He's full of himself. I understand his brother Euron's a jerk and he needs to destroy Euron. He needs to do that and then I think I'll like him. I am interested to see what happens when he meets Daenerys, yes, but Daenerys is gone right now. And he just has this attitude right now of feeling like he can take on anything, and we all know how that goes in books. You fall really, really, really far down and hit rock bottom, and in George R.R. Martin's books, you die. He's too cocky right now, he's too confident, and he's being a jerk. So I feel like he has to be knocked down a few pegs, because right now his confidence is killing me. Theon was just frustrating. He was frustrating in the show, he's frustrating in the books. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel quite horrible for Theon, but Theon is one of those characters that you know could probably do something to save himself if he really tried, but he won't do it. There's so many times where he can escape or admit something, but he won't do it. I found it interesting that Roose Bolton himself is the one who makes Theon Theon again, and he finally rebels by getting not Arya Stark, actually getting Jane Poole, who was Sansa's really good friend. That was one thing I found interesting too, is I was waiting for Sansa to show up and get married, but no, instead it's one of Sansa's best friends, and Theon ends up saving her. And I'm actually really happy because she was a character I think that interested me early on in the books, so I really want to see her develop too. So her and Theon escape, and then they finally run into Asha. That I'm interested to see. Is Asha interacting with Theon again, because she's with Stannis and everything now as a prisoner, and now they're finally meeting up, and I'm interested to see how that whole dynamic plays out. There's a lot of characters in here that were annoying to me. You had my favorites, but then you had the minor characters that were involved that I was just annoyed with and wanted to get over with. The one character I wish there was more development on was Davos. That's the main character that he got like 1 or 2 chapters, and then that was it. Other than knowing that Davos has escaped, you don't really know anything else about him. And Davos is actually a character I really do like. And I was kind of sad that I only really got 1 or 2 chapters out of him, and I'm not really sure what happened to him for the whole rest of the book. I did appreciate in the last book that there was a note at the end saying that in A Dance with Dragons, it's going to intertwine a little bit at the end. They ended up being my favorite chapters. So the beginning I kind of sped through. The middle was the hardest part for me to get through, right, Dragon? Yeah, that was a hard part. And then the ending, I flew through once again. Jaime's chapter was my favorite chapter of this whole entire book, I think, in all honesty. Because he meets up with Brienne, guys! And the way that whole chapter ended, I was so mad, but it was genius. Jaime finally meets up with Brienne, which you wanted that reunion for a while. And on top of that, in the last book, you didn't know if Brienne was dead or not because undead Catelyn Stark decided to try and hang her, even though Brienne had been doing everything she asked her to do. On top of that, Brienne mentions that the Hound is there, and she mentions that she found one of the Stark girls. And then that's it. The chapter ends, and then you don't hear from her for the whole rest of the book. And I'm just sitting there the whole rest of the book thinking, I want to go back to Jaime. What happened with Jaime? I cannot wait to read that storyline. I have to wait till 2020, man. The struggle. I feel your guys' struggle now. How did you survive with the other books? I don't know how you did it, people. Then you go to Cersei, and you have her whole walk of shame. Oh, which was just as painful. That was such a big moment on the show, and I'm so glad that the book lived up to that moment. I don't like that moment. I don't really think she deserves that. But it lived up to it. I get the books are where it comes from, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I saw it on the show first before I read it in the books. And then finally we have the epilogue, which is where Varys finally comes in. This one I was actually a little bit sad about because I actually did like Kevin Lannister. I felt he was a good guy. He was rebuilding the Empire. He was going to make better connections. Instead, Varys killed him. And I just found that really interesting. He's not in this whole book. And then finally Varys is just like, sorry. I gotta keep this chaos going. Cersei's gonna be back controlling Tommen, which should be really fun, guys. But those are really all my feels and everything about this book. If you can't tell, I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited for when the next book comes out and when the new season comes out. It's being pushed back. I have to wait a whole nother year. Thank you so much for joining me today. Trust me, this is the last time you're gonna have to see me in this blonde wig for a while. Until the next book. Thank you for watching. If you have any other book or movie recommendations that you would like me to review, leave them in the comments below. I write down all of your suggestions, and I know it takes me a while to get to them, but trust me, I do have them written down, and I do plan on doing them. And thank you for coming every single video and watching them and supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. It means the world to me, knowing I have an impact on you and you like to hear my voice, and I love hearing from you guys too, which is why I love getting all of your comments, and I try to respond to them as quick as I can whenever I can. If you want updates on when I'm posting videos, if there's a week where I can't, or just acting stuff even that's going on in my life, you can go to tiffanymillion.blogspot.com. That's my blog. I keep everything updated on there. I post on Monday every single week and give you a recap of everything that's been happening, and it will inform you if new videos are up if you missed it, or it will let you know for some reason if I can't post a video this week because of craziness. Thank you for joining me. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this, and don't forget to be awesome. And Dracarys. Bye!